Dog goes missing and discovers secret military base. Moments later, police are called in urgently. Thunder rolled across the Atlanta skyline as Officer Sarah Collins adjusted her radio, the static crackling through the patrol car's speakers. Her partner Max, a Belgian Malinois with keen amber eyes, sat alert in the specially modified K9 compartment, listening to the dispatcher's voice cut through the rain-soaked night. Unit K9 Charlie, we have reports of suspicious activity near the old industrial complex off Morrison Road. Possible trespassing, approach with caution. Sarah glanced at her watch. 11:42 p.m. The timing felt off. Most trespassers didn't brave storms like this. Lightning illuminated the cityscape behind her, casting shadows across downtown Atlanta. Her hand instinctively reached back to touch Max's paw, a ritual they'd shared countless times before. Ready, partner? Max's soft whine was all the answer she needed. They'd been through everything together. Drug busts, missing persons, even a hostage situation last summer that had earned them both commendations. But something about tonight felt different. The industrial complex loomed ahead, a maze of abandoned warehouses backing up against dense Georgia woodland. Sarah's cruiser's headlights cut through sheets of rain, illuminating graffiti-covered walls and rusted chain-link fences. But it was Max's sudden, rigid posture that caught her attention. In 5 years of partnership, she'd learned to trust his instincts above all else. "What is it, boy?" Sarah killed the engine, letting the rain drum against the roof. Max's nose worked the air vents, his usual calm demeanor replaced by an intensity she rarely saw. His muscles were taut, and the fur along his spine stood slightly raised, a telltale sign that something was definitely wrong. Sarah reached for her tactical flashlight and checked her sidearm. "Dispatch, this is Collins. On scene at Morrison Complex, beginning perimeter check with K9. The rain had picked up, reducing visibility to mere feet. Perfect cover for whatever, or whoever, had triggered the call. Max took point as they circled the main warehouse, his training evident in every measured step. Water streamed off his black and tan coat, but he remained focused, scanning their surroundings with military precision. Sarah watched his tail, straight, not wagging. This wasn't excitement, this was alertness. The air carried an unfamiliar scent that even Sarah could detect. Metallic, almost chemical. A flash of movement caught her eye. There, between the buildings, a shadow moving with purpose. "Atlanta PD, stop right there!" Sarah's command cut through the storm, but the figure darted toward the tree line. Max tensed, ready to pursue. "Hold," Sarah ordered. But Max's attention was locked on something else. His ears flattened, and a low growl rumbled in his chest, a sound she'd never heard him make before. In their years together, she'd never seen him ignore a direct command. "Max, hold position!" The shadow disappeared into the woods, but Max suddenly bolted, not toward the fleeing suspect, but toward a different section of the fence line. Sarah's flashlight beam caught the glint of metal, a concealed gate, nearly invisible against the weathered fence. "Max, return!" For the first time in their partnership, Max didn't respond. He squeezed through a gap in the fence and vanished into the darkness. Sarah's heart pounded as she ran after him, her boots slipping on the mud-slicked ground. The tree line ahead was a wall of shadow and rain. "Dispatch, K9 unit in pursuit of..." Sarah hesitated. Of what? A shadow. Her partner's unusual behavior. "Request backup at my location. K9 officer has left initial search area, heading into woodland east of Morrison Complex." Lightning split the sky, illuminating the forest for a brief, terrible moment. In that flash, Sarah saw something that turned her blood cold. A concrete structure, nearly invisible among the trees, definitely not on any city map she'd studied. Military-grade security cameras dotted its walls, their red lights blinking steadily despite the storm. Max's bark echoed from that direction, then silence. "Max!" Sarah's voice was swallowed by another roll of thunder. She pressed forward, but her flashlight beam revealed only empty forest. The rain intensified, washing away any scent trail Max might have followed. For the first time since academy training, real fear crept into Sarah's throat. Max wasn't just her partner, he was her lifeline, the one who'd helped her rebuild her confidence after losing her previous human partner in the line of duty. Her radio crackled, the voice on the other end different from dispatch, deeper, more authoritative. "Officer Collins, this is restricted military property. Stand down and return to your vehicle immediately." Direct order from Colonel Marcus Thompson, Atlanta Military Command. Military property in the middle of Atlanta's industrial district? Sarah's training screamed at her to follow protocol, but 5 years of trust and partnership screamed louder. Somewhere in the darkness, Max had found something important enough to break years of disciplined training. Negative dispatch. "My partner is out there. I'm not leaving without him." The storm raged on, and somewhere in the darkness, a door sealed shut with a heavy metallic clang. Sarah Collins stood at the edge of the woods, rain soaking through her uniform, facing a choice that would change everything. Through the downpour, she caught glimpses of movement. Multiple figures in military gear converging on the area where Max had disappeared. Lightning flashed once more, illuminating the complex in stark relief. For a split second, Sarah saw it all clearly. The security, the cameras, the unmarked vehicles emerging from hidden garages. Her partner was out there, possibly in danger, and protocol be damned. She was going to find him. The night had just begun, and Sarah Collins had no idea that her search for Max would uncover secrets that powerful people would kill to protect. Max crept through the darkened corridor, his paws silent on the concrete floor. The unfamiliar chemical scent grew stronger here, making his sensitive nose twitch. 5 years of K9 training had taught him to recognize thousands of odors, drugs, explosives, human traces, but this was different. Wrong. The facility's fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting shadows that tested even his keen night vision. Somewhere above, the storm continued its assault, but down here the thunder was just a distant rumble. His ears picked up other sounds, the hum of machinery, the whisper of ventilation systems, and voices, hushed but urgent, coming from behind a heavy metal door. Outside, Sarah pressed herself against a tree as another military vehicle swept past, its spotlight cutting through the rain. Her mind raced back to their first day at K9 training, how Max had picked her out of all the handlers, refusing to work with anyone else. Now, soaked to the bone and risking her career, she knew she'd do the same for him. "Collins, this is Lieutenant Rogers," her radio crackled. "We've got your location. Stay put. A team is en route to escort you back to your vehicle." The voice was friendly but firm, a warning wrapped in courtesy. Sarah switched off her radio. In the distance, more figures moved through the woods, their tactical gear military grade. This wasn't just some restricted area, this was something else entirely. Her years on the force had taught her to recognize legitimate operations, and everything about this felt wrong. Inside, Max froze as footsteps approached. 2 men in lab coats hurried past his hiding spot, their conversation drifting back to him. "Thompson wants everything cleared out tonight. FBI's been sniffing around after that leak last week. What about the test results? All data gets wiped. Nothing leaves this facility." The men's scents carried fear. Max had learned to recognize that particular cocktail of hormones and sweat during his years of service. These men were scared, and scared humans often made dangerous choices. Sarah edged closer to the facility, using the storm as cover. Lightning revealed a service entrance, partially hidden behind overgrown vegetation. Her lockpicking skills, learned during undercover work, might prove useful. But as she reached for her kit, memories flooded back. Her previous partner, Tom, teaching her these skills just weeks before the shooting that took his life. "Focus," she whispered. Max needed her. The lock yielded after 30 seconds, and Sarah slipped inside, immediately noting the contrast between the facility's weathered exterior and its state-of-the-art interior. Max continued his exploration, following protocol for unknown environments. A large room opened before him, filled with strange equipment and tanks with warning labels. His training had included recognizing hazardous material symbols. These matched nothing in his experience. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Max's ears flattened against his head as red emergency lights began to strobe. Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel initiate Protocol Omega. This is not a drill. Sarah pressed herself into an alcove as boots thundered past. Her police radio couldn't pick up the facility's internal communications, but the urgency was clear. She needed to move fast. Through the chaos, Max caught Sarah's scent. His training urged him to bark, to alert his partner, but instinct told him silence was crucial. Instead, he began working his way toward her, gathering evidence as he went. A fallen ID badge here, a dropped document there, each item carefully memorized for retrieval. Sarah's progress was slower, each intersection requiring careful checks. The facility was a maze of corridors and secured rooms, many requiring keycard access. But she noticed something odd. Despite the security, everyone was heading in the same direction, leaving certain areas unguarded. "Ma'am, you cannot be in here!" A voice behind her made Sarah freeze. She turned to face a young security guard, his hand moving to his weapon. "Officer Sarah Collins, Atlanta PD," she replied calmly. "I'm pursuing my K-9 partner, who entered this facility during patrol." The guard's hand hesitated. No one reported a police dog. His radio crackled with orders. "Ma'am, I have to insist." A crash interrupted him, followed by shouts and breaking glass. The guard turned toward the noise and Sarah moved. Years of training took over as she disarmed him smoothly, securing his radio and keycard. "I'm sorry," she said, handcuffing him to a pipe. "Someone will find you soon." Max had found something significant. A room filled with computers showed what appeared to be test results and maps. His training kicked in as he recognized locations. Cities, military bases, civilian areas. Whatever was happening here wasn't local. Sarah worked deeper into the facility using the stolen keycard. Each room revealed more questions. Advanced laboratory equipment, classified documents, and everywhere, contamination protocol warnings. The PA system crackled. "Attention all personnel, initiate data purge. Repeat, immediate data purge authorized." Max's ears perked up at familiar footsteps, Sarah's, distinct among the chaos. He moved quickly now, no longer concerned with stealth. His partner was close. Around a corner, Sarah heard claws on concrete. "Max," she whispered. A low whine responded. Their signal used when silence was crucial. Their reunion was brief. Max pressed against her leg once, then turned and trotted purposefully down a corridor. Sarah followed, trusting her partner's instincts. Whatever he'd found, he wanted her to see it. Behind them, voices grew louder. Security teams were regrouping, searching systematically now. They had minutes at most. They reached doors marked Primary Testing Facility. Sarah's keycard beeped green, and they entered. What they found stopped them cold. The room was massive, filled with strange equipment and sealed chambers. But it was the central display that caught their attention. A holographic map showing deployment sites across the country, each marked with a countdown timer. "Oh God," Sarah breathed, pulling out her phone. "Max, what did you find?" Her partner's only response was a low growl as footsteps approached. They were out of time. Sarah's hands shook as she snapped photos of the holographic display, each image more disturbing than the last. The map showed major population centers across the country, each marked with mysterious codes and countdown sequences. Next to her, Max kept watch, his body tense and alert. A memory flashed through her mind, her first day at the Atlanta Police Academy. "Trust your instincts," her instructor had said. "When something feels wrong, it usually is." Right now, everything felt wrong. Approaching footsteps broke her concentration. "We need to move," she whispered to Max. But her partner stood his ground, nose pointed toward a section of the wall that looked slightly different. Sarah had learned to trust these subtle signals. Moving closer, she noticed a slight draft, a hidden door. 5 years ago, when Sarah first met Max, he was considered unadoptable. Too intense, too focused, too much of everything. She'd been the same after losing Tom, her previous partner, in a drug bust gone wrong. Maybe that's why they clicked. Two broken pieces, forming something stronger. The hidden panel slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a maintenance tunnel. They slipped inside just as voices filled the main room. Through the wall, Sarah could hear Colonel Thompson's distinctive voice. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Find them, now, and initiate the final purge sequence. Nothing can remain." Sarah and Max moved silently through the tunnel, their path illuminated by emergency lighting. The walls were lined with pipes labeled with chemical formulas Sarah didn't recognize. Max's nose twitched constantly, cataloging every scent. Another memory surfaced. Max's first major case. A missing child in a storm, much like tonight's. Everyone said it was impossible to track in such weather, but Max had proved them wrong. He'd found the girl, huddled in an abandoned building, safe and sound. That case had earned them their reputation as Atlanta PD's top K-9 unit. The tunnel opened into a small control room filled with monitors. Each screen showed different areas of the facility, labs, storage areas, and something that made Sarah's blood run cold, testing chambers with hospital beds and restraints. "Oh, God," she breathed, quickly connecting her phone to the main computer. Years of cybercrime training paid off as she began downloading files. Whatever was happening here needed to be exposed. Max suddenly stiffened, a low growl building in his throat. Through the monitors, Sarah watched as teams of armed personnel swept through the facility, but it was the hazmat suits being distributed that worried her most. Her phone vibrated, a text from Detective Rodriguez, her old partner from narcotics. "Where are you? Whole department's looking, chief's furious." Sarah's thumb hovered over the keys. Rodriguez had always had her back, but this was bigger than department politics. Before she could decide, a new alert flashed across the monitors. Protocol Omega initiated. Facility sterilization in 30 minutes. Max's training kicked in as alarms blared. He nudged Sarah's hand urgently, pulling her toward another exit. The tunnel system was a maze, but Max navigated confidently, following air currents and scent trails. They emerged into a lower level, different from where they'd entered. Through windows in the corridor, they could see large vats of swirling liquid, their contents glowing an unnatural blue. Sarah's police training warred with her instinct to run. They had evidence now, proof of whatever conspiracy they'd stumbled into. Max suddenly stopped, his attention fixed on a particular door. Unlike the others, this one was marked with a biohazard symbol and trial results, Phase 3. The door required a fingerprint scan, but Sarah had lifted more than just a keycard from the guard. Forensics training had taught her a few tricks. The lock clicked open. Inside, filing cabinets lined the walls, each drawer marked with dates and location codes matching the map they'd seen earlier. Sarah quickly photographed everything she could reach. A familiar voice echoed through the corridor. "Check every room! They have to be here somewhere." Colonel Thompson getting closer. Max's ears pricked forward, detecting movement from multiple directions. They were being surrounded. Sarah felt the weight of her service weapon, knowing it would be useless against whatever cleanup protocol had been initiated. She leaned down to Max's level, meeting his intelligent eyes. "Remember that training exercise? The one with the ventilation shaft?" Max's tail twitched. He remembered. It had been their most challenging course, crawling through tight spaces in complete darkness. But they'd finished first, setting a department record. Sarah quickly located the vent access panel. As she worked the screws loose, her mind drifted to her last conversation with Tom. "Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking all the rules," he'd said. Max kept watch, his body language signaling the approaching danger. The sound of boots on metal stairs echoed through the facility, teams moving to cut off all escape routes. The vent cover came loose. Sarah secured her phone, making sure the evidence was safely stored. "Okay, partner," she whispered to Max, "just like in training." A voice boomed, "Sterilization protocol engaging. All personnel evacuate immediately." As Sarah helped Max into the vent shaft, she caught a glimpse of her reflection. She barely recognized the officer she'd been just hours ago, the one who always followed protocol. Tom would have been proud. They crawled through the ventilation system as the facility began to lock down. Sarah could hear the hiss of decontamination systems activating behind them. Whatever they'd discovered, someone was willing to go to extreme lengths to keep it secret. Max led the way, his training perfectly suited to this environment. Each turn brought them closer to the surface, to exposure of this conspiracy, and to answers that powerful people would kill to protect. Behind them, Colonel Thompson's voice echoed one final time. Find them, whatever it takes. The ventilation shaft ended abruptly at a vertical section. Sarah could feel cool air flowing down from above. They were close to the surface. But Max had stopped moving, his attention focused on sounds from a vent opening below them. Can't let them escape with those files. Colonel Thompson's voice drifted up. The Chinese buyers are already en route. If word gets out about the weapon tests, Sarah's heart raced. Weapons tests, Chinese buyers. This was worse than she'd imagined. She reached for her phone, making sure the recording feature was still active. Every word could be crucial evidence. A new voice joined the conversation. Sir, the decontamination sequence is starting. We need to evacuate. Not until we find them. That dog. There's something different about it. The way it detected the storage facility. We could use an asset like that in the program. Sarah felt Max tense at the words. After years of partnership, she could read his body language perfectly. He wasn't just alert now, he was angry. She placed a calming hand on his back, feeling his muscles quiver under her touch. The police officer? Thompson's second-in-command asked. Loose end. Handle it. The conversation faded as the men moved away. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They needed help, but who could they trust? The facility's countdown continued in the background, each announcement marking their dwindling time. Max suddenly perked up, his attention shifting to another vent opening ahead. Sarah heard it too, a familiar voice, one that didn't belong here. Look, I've got press credentials. It was Mike Chen, her old friend from journalism school. Atlanta Herald. I've been investigating unusual activities around this area for weeks. This is a restricted military facility, a guard responded. Leave now or be detained. Sarah's mind raced. Mike had been trying to get her to look into strange shipments around the industrial district for months. She dismissed his conspiracy theories, but now... Max, she whispered, we need a distraction. Her partner's eyes gleamed with understanding. They'd practiced tactical diversions countless times in training. Sarah retrieved a small flashbang from her utility belt, standard K9 unit equipment for riot situations. With precise timing, she dropped it through the vent, several corridors away from Mike's location. The explosion echoed through the facility. Shouts and running footsteps followed immediately. Through the vent, Sarah watched the guards leaving their post, rushing toward the noise. Mike! She called out softly once the area was clear. Up here! His shocked face appeared below them. Sarah? What the hell? No time! We need your help! This whole place is about to be sterilized and we have proof of illegal weapons testing. Mike's journalistic instincts kicked in immediately. The anonymous tip about chemical shipments. It was real? Worse, but we can't talk here. There's an external vent access on the roof. Meet us there. And Mike, call this into every agency you know. FBI, CIA, everyone. Use your emergency press contacts. As Mike hurried away, Sarah and Max continued their ascent. The vertical shaft was challenging, but years of training exercises had prepared them both for this kind of maneuver. Sarah braced herself against one wall, while Max used his powerful legs to climb between the narrow spaces. They were 3 levels up when the facility's speakers crackled again. Warning! Sterilization protocol initiating. 15 minutes to complete lockdown. A new sound caught their attention, the whir of ventilation fans starting up. Sarah's hazmat training from the police academy kicked in. In a facility like this, sterilization probably meant more than just disinfectant. Move faster, boy, she urged Max. The air was already starting to taste metallic. They reached the upper level just as emergency lights began flashing throughout the facility. Through the vent openings, Sarah could see personnel in full hazmat suits rushing to sealed exits. The roof access was ahead, but the vent cover was secured from the outside. Sarah pressed her shoulder against it, but it wouldn't budge. Max suddenly growled. Not his alert growl, but the deep warning sound he reserved for immediate threats. Sarah looked back down the shaft. Flashlight beams were visible below, getting closer. "They're in the vents!" A voice echoed up. "Release the gas." Sarah could hear valves opening somewhere in the ventilation system. The metallic taste in the air grew stronger. "Max, we need that cover off, now!" Her partner understood. Together they slammed against the vent cover, once, twice. On the third try, it gave way with a screech of torn metal. Rain poured in as they emerged onto the roof. Sarah helped Max out just as the first wisps of colored gas began seeping through the vent shaft. The roof was a maze of industrial equipment and satellite dishes. Multiple helicopter pads suggested this wasn't just a research facility, it was a distribution center. Mike was waiting behind an air conditioning unit, his camera already recording. "Sarah, this is huge. I've got calls out to every contact I have. What exactly did you find in there?" Before she could answer, the roof access door burst open. Colonel Thompson emerged, flanked by armed guards. Unlike his men, he wasn't wearing a hazmat suit. "Officer Collins," he called out, his voice casual despite the storm. "I have to admit I'm impressed. You and your K9 partner have caused quite a disruption, but it ends here." Sarah positioned herself in front of Max, her service weapon drawn. "It ends when this facility is exposed. We have evidence of everything, the weapons testing, the foreign buyers, all of it." Thompson smiled. "Evidence? Look around, Officer Collins. In 10 minutes, this entire facility will be sterilized. Any proof you think you have will be destroyed in the process. And as for witnesses," he gestured to his armed men. Mike's camera continued recording as he slowly backed toward the edge of the roof. Sarah could hear sirens in the distance, regular police, not military. Someone had responded to Mike's calls. "It's over, Thompson," Sarah said. "Too many people know." "No, Officer Collins," Thompson replied, drawing his own weapon. "It's only beginning." Max's growl was the only warning before all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted across the roof, bullets ricocheting off metal equipment as Sarah dove for cover, pulling Mike down with her. Max was already moving, his training kicking in as he circled behind their attackers. The storm provided perfect cover, rain and wind masking his approach. "Send that footage now!" Sarah shouted to Mike over the chaos. She could hear more sirens approaching, regular police units responding to the gunfire, but they'd be too late to stop whatever Thompson had planned. Thompson's voice cut through the storm. "You don't understand what's at stake here, Collins. This is bigger than you, bigger than the law. National security demands sacrifices." Through the rain, Sarah caught glimpses of more guards emerging onto the roof, all wearing gas masks. The facility's countdown continued. 10 minutes to complete sterilization. "National security?" Sarah called back, shifting positions as bullets sparked off the air conditioning unit beside her. "Or profit? I heard about your Chinese buyers, Thompson." A sudden yelp of pain made Sarah's heart stop. Max had taken down one of the guards, but caught a glancing blow in the process. The sight of her partner in pain triggered something primal in Sarah, the same fury she'd felt the night Tom died. Mike was typing frantically on his phone, uploading the evidence to secure servers. "Files are going live in 30 seconds, he shouted. "Multiple news outlets, federal agencies, everyone." Thompson's laugh was cold. "You think I don't have people in those agencies? This goes deeper than you can imagine. Stand down now, and maybe we can talk terms." Sarah checked her ammunition. 3 rounds left. Not enough for a firefight, but maybe enough for a distraction. She caught Max's eye across the roof. Even in the chaos, their years of training created a perfect understanding. "Max! Pattern Delta!" Her partner responded instantly, knocking over a row of gas canisters. The metal containers rolled across the roof, creating confusion among Thompson's men. Sarah used the distraction to move to a better position, getting a clear view of the scene. Thompson was backing toward a waiting helicopter, his men providing cover fire. But he'd made a crucial mistake. He was focused on Sarah, not on Max. 7 minutes to sterilization, the facility's speakers announced. Below them, Sarah could see waves of pale gas beginning to seep from the building's ventilation systems. Mike's voice rose in triumph. "Files are live. Everything we found, everything we recorded, it's all public now." Thompson's radio crackled. "Sir, FBI units reported approaching from all directions. CIA too. They're responding to the data leak." For the first time, Sarah saw real fear cross Thompson's face. But it quickly hardened into something worse, desperation. "Kill them all," he ordered. "No witnesses. Initiate final protocol." His men raised their weapons, but Max was faster. Years of K9 training combined with pure protective instinct as he launched himself at Thompson, teeth finding purchase on the arm, holding the colonel's gun. Sarah took her shot. 3 rounds, perfectly placed, disabled the helicopter's tail rotor. The aircraft would never take off now. "Sarah!" Mike's warning came just in time. More gas was pouring onto the roof, this batch a sickly green color. Her police training kicked in, chemical weapons protocol. "Everybody down," she shouted. "Cover your faces." But Max didn't retreat. Despite the gas, despite his injury, he maintained his grip on Thompson, preventing the colonel from reaching his backup weapon. Sarah made her choice, pulling her spare filtration mask from her utility belt, standard K9 unit equipment for drug raids. She ran through the gas cloud, not toward safety, but toward her partner. Thompson was struggling with Max, his military training evident in every move. But he'd never faced a K9 unit like this one. Max had been top of his class for a reason. "Stand down, Thompson," Sarah ordered, her voice muffled by the mask. "It's over." The colonel's eyes were wild. "You don't understand. The weapon sales were funding something bigger, something necessary. The Chinese weren't the only buyers. Every major power." Max's growl cut him off. Through the gas clouds, Sarah could see police spotlights beginning to illuminate the roof. Real help was finally arriving. 5 minutes to complete sterilization, the speakers announced. Thompson made one last desperate move, reaching for something in his jacket. But before he could grab it, Max shifted his grip, years of training taking over. The colonel fell, disarmed and pinned. Sarah quickly secured Thompson as Mike documented everything. Below them, she could hear the first FBI teams entering the facility, ordering an immediate shutdown of the sterilization protocol. "Officer Collins!" A familiar voice called through the chaos. Detective Rodriguez emerged from the roof access, leading a tactical team. "The FBI's taking control. Some kind of international weapons scandal. Care to explain?" Sarah looked at Max, who had finally released Thompson and returned to her side. Despite his injury, his tail was high, his posture proud. "Just doing our job," she replied, scratching Max's ears. "Following the evidence, like we were trained." Thompson laughed bitterly as he was led away. "You have no idea what you've started, Collins. No idea what's really going on in facilities like this across the country." Sarah watched as FBI hazmat teams swarmed the roof, securing evidence and containing the gas release. Max pressed against her leg, his familiar gesture of support. She'd started this night as a regular K9 officer, following protocol and maintaining order. Now she and Max had exposed an international conspiracy, prevented a weapons sale, and maybe, just maybe, uncovered something even bigger. Mike approached, his camera still recording. "Sarah, every major news outlet is asking for interviews. This is going to be huge." She looked at her partner, saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt. "What do you think, Max? Ready for another adventure?" His soft whine was all the answer she needed. The night was far from over. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat in the federal courthouse, Max at her feet as always. The grand jury was about to announce their decision on Colonel Thompson's indictment. The past 14 days had been a whirlwind of debriefings, interviews and revelations, each more shocking than the last. Thompson's facility wasn't isolated. Similar operations had been uncovered across the country, leading to what the media called the biggest military conspiracy since Iran-Contra. The chemical weapons program was just the tip of the iceberg. "All rise," the bailiff's voice snapped Sarah back to the present. Max stood automatically, his training impeccable even here. The judge entered, carrying the sealed indictment. Sarah's mind drifted to the night after the raid. The FBI had worked for hours to secure the facility, containing the chemical agents and preserving evidence. Max's injury had required stitches, but he'd refused to leave her side until every suspect was in custody. "In the matter of the United States versus Colonel Marcus Thompson," the judge began, "the grand jury has returned a true bill on all counts." Thompson, seated at the defendant's table in his military dress uniform, showed no emotion, but Sarah noticed his hands tighten on the edge of the table. "The defendant is hereby charged with conspiracy to sell military secrets, illegal weapons development, attempted murder of a police officer, and high treason against the United States of America." Mike Chen, sitting in the press gallery, was already typing furiously on his laptop. His exposé on the weapons program had earned him a Pulitzer nomination. His quick thinking that night had ensured the evidence reached the right people. The judge continued reading charges as Sarah reflected on the aftermath. The investigation had led to dozens of arrests, including 3 generals and a deputy defense secretary. The Chinese buyers had been intercepted, leading to an international diplomatic crisis. Detective Rodriguez had been instrumental in coordinating between local police and federal agencies. He'd also ensured that Sarah and Max received full recognition for their roles while protecting them from military retaliation. Max shifted slightly, his attention focused on Thompson. Even now, Sarah marveled at her partner's intuition. That night, he'd sensed something wrong before any human could have known. His actions had saved countless lives. The judge's voice grew stern. "Given the severity of these charges and the overwhelming evidence, the defendant will be held without bail pending trial." As federal marshals approached Thompson, he finally spoke. "Officer Collins," his voice carried across the courtroom, "you still don't understand. Everything we did was necessary. The world is changing. Sometimes protecting people means making hard choices." Sarah met his gaze. "No, Colonel. You forgot the most important choice. To do what's right." Thompson's face hardened as the marshals led him away. But it was over. His network was exposed, his operation dismantled. After the hearing, Sarah and Max walked through the courthouse plaza. News cameras followed at a distance. They'd become minor celebrities in the law enforcement world. The morning sun felt warm after so many days of rain. "Officer Collins," a voice called out. Sarah turned to see FBI Special Agent Martinez approaching. "Got a minute?" Sarah nodded, noticing the thick file in his hands. Max sat at attention, always professional around federal agents. "The Bureau is forming a new task force," Martinez explained. "Joint operation with K9 units, specifically targeting these types of black sites. After seeing how you and Max handled the Thompson case, well, we'd like you to consider joining." Sarah looked down at Max, saw the eagerness in his eyes. They'd started this journey as a regular K9 unit doing routine patrols. Now they had a chance to make an even bigger difference. "There are more facilities out there," Martinez continued. "More people like Thompson, thinking they're above the law. We need teams who can find them, who can recognize when something's not right." Sarah smiled, remembering her academy instructor's words about trusting instincts. Max had trusted his that night, breaking protocol to follow a scent that seemed wrong. She'd trusted their partnership enough to follow him into danger. "When do we start?" she asked. Martinez grinned. "How about now? We've got reports of unusual activity at a facility in Virginia. Satellite images show structures similar to Thompson's operation." Max's tail wagged once, their signal for acceptance. Sarah felt the familiar surge of anticipation, the partnership between Handler and K9 ready for a new challenge. "First," she said, "Max needs his morning run. Even federal agents have to follow K9 protocol." As they walked away, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. The night Max discovered the facility had started as a routine patrol, but ended up changing both their lives. They'd exposed a conspiracy, saved lives, and shown that sometimes the most important protocol was following your partner's lead. Max trotted beside her, alert and proud. They'd faced danger together, trusted each other when everything seemed wrong, and come out stronger. Whatever challenges this new task force brought, they would face them the same way, as partners. The morning sun caught Max's badge, making it shine. Sarah touched her own badge, thinking of Tom and how proud he would be. Sometimes doing the right thing meant breaking the rules, but it always meant standing up for justice. "Ready for a new adventure, partner?" she asked. Max's confident bark echoed across the plaza. They had work to do.